And despite diplomatic efforts and renewed ceasefire understandings, tensions in southern Lebanon remain high. Israeli strikes have continued to target areas in the south, causing casualties and raising questions about the durability of recent agreements. At the same time, the Lebanon file has become increasingly linked to broader regional diplomacy, particularly the emerging US-Iran agreement. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has urged that any lasting agreement with Washington must include an Israeli withdrawal from Lebanese territory, while Israel insists its forces will remain in certain areas for security reasons. Is Lebanon becoming a bargaining chip in larger regional talks? And what options does Beirut have as the Israeli aggression continues? Meanwhile, the G7 leaders are ramping up pressure on Russia and boosting support for Ukraine in a unified push backed by President Trump. And the move comes alongside a broader shift in global diplomacy tied to progress on the Iran deal and includes backing for a UK and France-led mission to secure key shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm Salma El-Fiki, and let's get in focus. And let's move now to a live speech for the U.S. President Donald Trump. Let's see.
Well, it's not something that's, to me, I think it's better without it. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of it. I liked it because it got us out of NAFTA. In other words, after 6 years, you had a clause that got us out of NAFTA. That's the thing I liked about it most. We do better without an agreement.
Do you want to just leave it in rolling?
I would rather leave it unsigned. I'd rather have it terminated.
You'd rather have it terminated? Those are different things, sir. I just want to be clear.
I would rather not have the agreement, but I may sign it.
Right.
But we do better as a country if we don't have an agreement.
So are you thinking of...
Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe we won't be able to make a deal. I would rather not have the USMCA. The primary reason I wanted it was because there was no way out of NAFTA, which was the worst trade agreement ever made, like ever. And they had no termination. And it was very hard to get USMCA for that reason. And I had a 6-year clause. Who would have thought I would have been here in the 6 years? They got it 6 years because they hoped I wouldn't be here. My term was supposed to be over with. So on top of everything else that comes to, I would prefer not having an agreement, but I'm open to doing it. We'll see what happens.
So as of now, it's just going to stick around for 10 years. You're okay
We're
with
not,
that?
no, it's not sticking around. It'll be terminated. In other words,
after a decade.
It expires.
Yeah, in a decade.
It expires.
Yeah.
I prefer that.
In the first paragraph,
I view it as possibly expiring immediately.
in the first paragraph of the Iran memorandum, it says no use of force, but also no threat of a use of force. It talks about bombing Iran if they didn't comply. Is that a threat? Would the Iranians see that as? If they don't come through, is it a threat that we'd bomb? You can call whatever you want, but it'll probably happen. Thank you. I will see you at Versailles, and you're going to go back and tell the New York Times you're going to change your whole way of life. Okay? Do you see the 60 days as a hard deadline for final agreement?
No, I don't. No. Could take longer.
So you could extend.
You could extend this thing.
I don't view it as hard now.
You don't think of it as a hard
No,
deadline? For
just as long as they're behaving, I really don't care that much.
Did you talk to leaders about Greenland, sir?
About who?
Greenland? Did you talk about Greenland?
No, we didn't discuss Greenland.
Not at all?
I should discuss Greenland, but we didn't.
Does Ukraine now have the advantage on the battlefield? What's the situation?
Well, they're doing pretty well. Russia's a big country, much bigger military, but they're doing pretty well. They're holding their own. They have great equipment with our equipment, don't forget, but they're doing pretty well.
Are you going to send them any more U.S. military help?
Well, they pay for it.
Yeah.
I send it to Europe. Europe pays for it. NATO pays for it, unlike Biden, where he gave $300 billion worth of equipment away.
Sanctions on Russia, what are you going to do about that? Sanctions on Russia, like the oil waivers?
Yeah, I may put them back on, yeah. I wanted to make sure that oil stayed as low as possible. Now that the oil price is way down, when you see those numbers, but it's way down, I may put it back on. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And that was President Trump commenting a few comments, just landing at the Orly airport, heading to Versailles for dinner. And then we have the Guardian reports that Iran has made the Lebanese file a central component of its ongoing negotiations with the United States. And Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated that any lasting peace arrangement requires the withdrawal of the Israeli forces from southern Lebanon, warning that continued Israeli military presence would undermine the agreement. The report notes that Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon have continued despite broader diplomatic efforts aimed at reducing regional tensions. The issue has emerged as one of the main obstacles facing the implementation of the newly announced U.S.-Iran understanding. And according to the article, President Donald Trump has expressed frustration over continued military activity in Lebanon while attempting to advance a wider regional de-escalation framework. Meanwhile, Hezbollah officials have signaled that Iran intends to keep Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon high on the agenda during future negotiations. The report highlights how Lebanon has become increasingly connected to wider regional diplomacy, with developments on the ground now directly affecting the prospects for a broader U.S.-Iran engagement and regional stability. For more analysis, we are joined from Pennsylvania by Mr. Malik Francis, the political analyst. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Good evening, Ms. Salma, to you and the viewers.
Thank you very much. Mr. Francis, let me ask you, despite the ceasefire understandings reached earlier this month, Israeli strikes have continued in southern Lebanon, and including attacks that reportedly killed several people this week. What explains the gap between the diplomatic agreements and the realities on the ground?
As we all know, Ms. Salma, that Israel does not respect any ceasefire and never respected any agreement or a treaty with its neighbors. And this is really very depressing, because the Lebanese and others cannot really live in war since 1969. And Lebanon is a theater for the wars of others since 1969, when Lebanon was forced to sign the Cairo Pact under one former late President Jamal Abdel Nasser, to allow the PLO to fight Israel from the Lebanese territory. But no Arab nation allowed the PLO to fight Israel, as Egypt, Jordan, or Syria. And Lebanon is too weak, and the Lebanese government, unfortunately, is trying, but it's going to be very difficult, because the Lebanese file is connected to the Iranian file now. And a positive step was made, I think, a few days ago, that the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas, did call the Lebanese president and the Speaker of the House. We want the Iranian government to speak to the Lebanese government, not to Hezbollah or to any other militia. It should be between the two nations. And maybe at the negotiation after Friday, Lebanon should have a representative present in order to protect its rights. And Lebanon should speak for itself. It's an independent nation, and it has a government, and the government represents the Lebanese people.
Sir, Iran's foreign minister has explicitly linked the success of the U.S.-Iran agreement to an Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon. What does this tell us about Lebanon's growing importance in the regional negotiations?
We hope so, but as I said, Israel is not going to withdraw from the occupied Lebanese territory, there are going to be problems. Is Iran going to retaliate against Israel if it does not withdraw from the Lebanese territory? Then how about Hezbollah? Is Hezbollah going to maintain its locations in the south? Because Israel is going to claim that because of its security, they are going to stay in South Lebanon, and they have the right and the freedom to assassinate any Hezbollah leader. Then Hezbollah is going to retaliate. So the only solution is for Israel to withdraw completely from the Lebanese territory. Then I think Hezbollah and the Lebanese government will sit down and discuss the future of the members, the fighters of Hezbollah. Maybe they could join the Lebanese army. But if Israel does not withdraw completely, 100% from the Lebanese territory, there will be no peace in that part of the world.
Yes. Sir, how would you assess the current security situation in southern Lebanon? Are we witnessing isolated violations, or does this indicate that the ceasefire framework remains still fundamentally fragile?
It's very fragile because Israel is bombing every day, and Hezbollah is retaliating on a daily basis. Israel destroyed about 100 villages plus, destroyed all the homes, and we have 1 million plus refugees living on the streets all over Lebanon. Israel did commit war crimes against Lebanon as it did in Gaza. And if the Lebanese government does not now go to the international court and submit a claim against Israel, and in the future Israel should make reparation for the Palestinians, the Syrian and the Lebanese, or Israel is going to continue its attack on its neighbors, Lebanon, Syria, West Bank and Gaza. So it's very unfortunate, really, that Israel is an international terrorist nation. Its prime minister is convicted as a war criminal by the international court and have no respect for any international laws.
Mr. Francis, Israel has repeatedly stated that it intends to maintain a military occupation in parts of southern Lebanon for security reasons. How difficult does that make any diplomatic settlement?
It's going to be very difficult because Hezbollah is not going to lay down its arms, will not join the Lebanese army. Hezbollah will decide when there will be a war or no war or peace. So the only solution is for if the Israelis withdraw from south of Lebanon, there will be maybe peace between Lebanon and Israel, and Hezbollah will not get involved anymore, will stay away from the Lebanese territory. There is peace between Egypt and Israel. There is no war going on at the borders of Egypt and Israel. So if President Trump wants to complete his Abrahamic Accord and bring peace to the Middle East, he must recognize a Palestinian state. If he does it in the future, then he may get the Nobel Peace Prize, because that's what he dreams of every day. Because during the election, the presidential election, he promised to be president of peace. Let him prove to us that he is the president of peace, and we'll support him, because 70% of the American people now are against President Trump's internal and international policies. Even we Republicans, more than 40% now don't agree with his policies because it's affecting us and affecting the whole world.
Yes. Do you believe that Lebanon file now has become inseparable from the broader U.S.-Iran relations, or can it still be addressed independently through the Lebanese-Israeli negotiations?
It's interconnected, unfortunately, now, because Iran is saying that they won't sign an agreement unless the Israelis would withdraw from south of Lebanon. But the Lebanese government sending representative to Washington to sit down and negotiate with the Israelis. But Lebanon has nothing to offer. The Israelis are going to say, as long as there is Hezbollah in the south, we're not going to withdraw. So it will not really, Lebanon will not gain anything, unfortunately. Maybe with the American-Iranian negotiation, maybe if President Trump will get tougher on Benjamin Netanyahu and force him to withdraw from south of Lebanon, we may have maybe resolution to the Israeli-Lebanese conflict.
Sir, recent reports suggest that the U.S. mediators see the Lebanese-Israeli talks as reaching a critical stage. What opportunities do you think still exist for diplomacy before the tensions escalate again?
There'll be no opportunity, positive one, unfortunately, because as I said, Israel is going to say, and it will always say, I have the right for freedom to do whatever I want in Lebanon, bomb anywhere I want in the Bekaa and Beirut in south of Lebanon, going after Hezbollah leaders or Hezbollah fighters. So there will be no peace because Hezbollah is going to retaliate against Israel.
Yeah.
The only solution is for the Lebanese government with the Israelis to sit down and talk about Israelis' withdrawal, and Israel should pay reparation for all the damages they caused in Lebanon. There's no other way.
And Hezbollah insists that any sustainable arrangement must include the full Israeli withdrawal. So how much room is there for compromise between the positions of Hezbollah, Beirut, and Israel?
I agree with Hezbollah. I don't agree with what they are doing in Lebanon or what they did in Syria. But without President Trump's putting pressure on the Israelis, nothing is going to happen, unfortunately. And Benjamin Netanyahu is going to use Lebanon until the Israelis' election because it may help him. He would say, I protected the north of Israel. I protected Israel from Hezbollah.
Yeah.
And I am killing the Hezbollah's fighters. And they are weaker now, and Israel is more safe than before. And that's the issue here now, because Netanyahu is not working for peace. He's working for his own interest, and he wants the Israeli Supreme Court now to keep postponing the hearings, because if there will be peace, I believe that the Israeli Supreme Court is going to convict him and convict his wife, and he won't be allowed to run for any public office in the future.
Yeah. Mr. Francis, can you tell us what role can the Lebanese government and army realistically play in stabilizing the south and preventing renewed escalation?
As of today, the Lebanese army is too weak. Hezbollah is stronger than the Lebanese army and is better equipped. The problem here with the U.S. That the American government claim it's supporting, helping the Lebanese army, but they won't give him enough military equipment in order to protect the borders of Lebanon. Lebanon is not allowed to have jet fighters, is not allowed to have missiles. So how is he going to protect the Lebanese territory and protect Lebanon? So there is a problem. If I were the Lebanese government, I would go to China, work with China, because China is more generous. And there is no Israeli lobby in China. Here in Washington, the Israeli lobby, unfortunately, as of today, is still controlling the White House, the Defense Department, and the Congress.
Yes.
And that's the biggest issue we're having with the U.S. government.
Can you tell us if the U.S.-Iran agreement moves forward, but the Lebanon issue still remains unresolved? Do you think that could undermine the wider regional de-escalation effort?
I don't think so, because I think Iran now cares about Iran, and they are looking after their own interest. The Iranian economy is going to collapse, as everybody knows, and they are looking for money for their frozen assets, about $200 to $300 billion. So they are going to work with the U.S. government in order to get in order for the American government to defreeze their assets. And I believe that Qatar promised to help the Iranian to rebuild what was destroyed. That's why I think we are going to have an agreement signed this coming Friday in Geneva or outside Geneva, because the Qataris are too generous with their money. And I think there are about $10 billion, I think, Iranian money at the Qataris bank. President Trump will ask the behind the scene the Qataris to defreeze the money, and Strait of Hormuz will be reopened, and it should be open. No one has the right to close an international waterway. Iran claimed that the United States attacked its territory against the international law. Yeah, but the Iranians closed the Strait of Hormuz at the same time. So both of them, with the Israelis, did violate the international law. And Iran is asking the United States for reparation. How about Israel, who bombed Iran and assassinated Iranian scientists? Israel should pay reparation at the same time.
And that was Mr. Melik Francis, the political analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for your insights. And now we move more to the recent developments on the Russia-Ukraine front. Turning to Ukraine, where the G7 leaders have pledged increased military support for Kiev and tougher sanctions on Russia, reaffirming their support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And according to Politico Europe, the G7 leaders, with the backing of President Trump, have committed to expanding air defense systems, long-range capabilities, and additional military assistance for Ukraine, while increasing the economic pressure on Russia through tougher sanctions and including measures targeting its oil and gas sectors. The joint declaration says recent progress on the U.S.-Iran agreement could make it easier to pursue additional measures against Moscow. G7 leaders also welcomed the Iran deal and endorsed an international mission led by the UK and France to help protect shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Delving more into this, we're joined from Kiev by Mr. Ivan Us, the advisor at the Ukraine National Center. Welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining me here today at In Focus. Mr. Us, let me ask you, how significant is the G7's renewed pledge of the military support for Ukraine at this stage of the war?
Good evening, Salma. Greetings to you and greetings to all Qnews audience. Thank you for invitation. Actually, for Ukraine, of course, I think from our perspective, it's a very good meeting took place in Evian, France, of G7, because before this meeting in Ukraine, we said that we felt support of Europe, but we have such a thought that the United States of America are not with us, that US is engaged in their own problems, and they don't care about the war of Russia against Ukraine. This meeting demonstrated that the United States of America returned to the game, returned to the, let's call it so, this peace track, so back on track, and of course, the moment that they both, all G7 countries decided that the Russia success is not so good and Russia is not winning this war. I think that is the main thing that happened on the fields of that G7 meeting. And of course, the decision about both supporting of Ukraine, both giving license for our weapon, for production of anti-ballistic missiles and pressure on Russia by sanction. I think that all is a very good achievement. So as I said, it's for Ukraine positive results. Thank you, Salma.
Yeah. Mr. Oust, do you think the increased air defense systems and long-range capabilities meaningfully do change the battlefield dynamics for Kiev?
Salma, you should understand that the main problem that Ukraine have as of this moment is a Russian ballistic missiles attack on Kiev, leaving in other Ukrainian cities. Several days ago, it was huge attack made by Russia when they actually damaged a lot of important for Kievites places like our main church, Lavra, like our cinema studio, like cultural palace, Ukraine, that's situated several hundred meters from the house where I'm living, from my residential building. So, and Ukraine understand that we don't have enough means to destroy those rockets. So we need anti-rockets that will help to us to destroy all ballistic missiles, like we do with cruise missiles. Because in that night, when Russia attacked Ukraine by 70 rockets, 30 of them was a cruise missile, and Ukraine destroyed all of them. So 30 from 30 cruise missiles was destroyed, but a lot of ballistic missiles actually targeted the, a lot of places and a lot of victims. We have 5 victims in Ukraine. Before that was 21 victims in Kiev, only in Kiev. So, and in Dnipro, Kharkov, a lot of victims. That's why the main weak point is defense from the air defense. As for long-range missiles,
Yes.
it's rather for argument for Russia, go on the round table and stop this war, because if you don't stop, Ukraine will know how to respond to you. Thank you, Salma.
Sir, the declaration also mentions the boosting sanctions on Russia's oil and gas sector. How much pressure can that realistically add at this point, if you can tell us?
Oh, of course, we understand that the core of Russian economy is energy sector. And first of all, under this statement, we expect from our partners from European Union to change the so-called roof of the price. So, because according to current sanctions, every half a year, the European Union changed the price cap for Russian oil. Now it's $44, but formula for this price cap is the average price for last 6 months minus 15%. We understand that due to escalation near to the Strait of Hormuz, the world oil prices seriously increased. It was approximately, now it's of course near to 80 due to expectation on Friday deal. But if we look at previous months, it was approximately averagely $100 per barrel. In some moment it was 119 at the peak, but I think 100 it will be right price for this half a year. So 100 minus 15%, it means 85%. $85. So of course, from 44 to 85, for us it will be big plus.
Yes.
And first, we're expecting to change this rule, and we're expecting that at least European partners would say that either they freeze that 44.1 or some other figure, but less than the price that theoretically could be for Russian oil. Thank you, Salma.
Mr. Ouz, President Trump backed the joint statement. Does that signal greater Western unity on Ukraine, or are there still divisions beneath the surface?
Salma, several days ago, in the House in U.S. was voting for more sanctions against Russia and more support to Ukraine. Donald Trump administration was against that idea. That's why Republicans vote against, but not all Republicans. 6 Republicans vote for that idea, like for the other idea, and others voting, and 6 Republicans vote for that. The fact that any military action against Iran should receive the approval from the Congress. It should not be only Donald Trump decision. And those 2 votings and the one day give the same result. 6 Republicans vote for both those ideas, and the next day after that was the second not even attempt, it was second voting on this idea, and 18 Republicans vote for more support to Ukraine, and Donald Trump understands that the idea of helping Ukraine becomes popular between Americans, and American politicians, Republicans first of all, politicians vote for them. That's why I think returning of US on the table and reunity of the G7, because we remember what happened in the last year in Canada when Donald Trump left this meeting. Now, absolutely other attitude, just because Trump's anti-Western policy, we can call it so, the alliance policy, sharply criticized in the United States of America. Now Donald Trump wants to demonstrate that he returning to the unity of, let's call it so, Euro-Atlantic unity, to this idea, and that's why we see these changes, and we see that United States of America agreed the declaration, but I recollect that several days ago there were statements there will be no final memorandum, there will be no final conclusions. Now we see this statement, and for me it's a result of returning of US to Western policy, to joint Western policy, because Japan, Canada saw presence there, not only Euro-Atlantic, it's so many countries. Thank you so much.
Mr. Rus, let me ask you, the G7 links progress on the Iran deal to broader diplomatic momentum. How, if at all, does that affect strategy towards Russia?
Of course it's influence. You should understand, Salma, that for Russia, the war against Iran, it was a big plus for their economy, because due to this war, the global oil prices seriously increased. Furthermore, Russia has three main interests in the war against Iran. First, that oil prices increased and Russia received more money. Second, that there was a feeling of lack of oil at the global market, and Russia can substitute it, and not only oil actually, yes, fertilizers too. It's very important region. I mean, Hormuz, Strait of Hormuz for global fertilizers business, and Russia can substitute it, but instead of that, they asked to eliminate all sanctions against them. So it was their serious argument. And third plus for Russia was the idea that they want to sell to Donald Trump that they could receive any, if it is, achievements of Iran in preparation of nuclear weapons, but instead of that, they asked not to help to Ukraine. So for Ukraine, it was a big threat that Russia received more money, Russia received less sanctions, and Russia received a ban for support for Ukraine from Ukrainian allies. Now, when we are coming closer to the deal, I'm not sure that it will be. You know that at least one country against this deal, it's Israel, of course, and we have a fear that Israel do their best for not receiving this deal. But if this deal really happened with Iran, of course, it means that US forgot about the war, and they will give their anti-ballistic missiles for Patriots to Ukraine, because now, according to statement from Lockheed Martin, producer of those rockets for Patriot system that destroyed ballistic missiles, they have no opportunity to sell it to European partners who give it to Ukraine. So for us, the end of war there means more anti-ballistic missiles rockets will be in our hands, and that is a very important moment for Ukraine. Thank you, Hal.
Okay, Mr. Rus, let me still ask you, with also the same military spending and military production, there's talk of expanding Ukraine's own military production through licensing. Could that be a game changer for long-term sustainability, in your opinion?
I think yes. You know, Hala, we asked about this license because we said that, guys, we understand that for you, for all Western partners, both in US and Europe, had to rebuild your production facilities to produce more and more anti-rockets that destroy missiles. But you don't need them, unlike Ukraine. Ukraine desperately needs them. As I said, 70 rockets attacked Ukraine 2 days ago, and only 30 of them was cruise missiles, 40 ballistic missiles, and we destroyed 14 or 16 from that 40, so very small part. That's why we need to produce more such rockets. We are ready for that, but we need license, because we are not countries that invent those rockets. It's US, and we need permission to do these rockets because we desperately need them. We want to defend, first of all, lives of other humans, plus we want to defend architecture, churches, historical museums, cinema studios that was targeted last time, to a lot of objects that we want to preserve, and without opportunity to produce those rockets that help to us destroying Russian ballistic missiles. For us, it will be extremely hard task. So that's why for us, it's one of probably the main achievement of the G7 for Ukraine. It's a decision to give license to Ukraine to produce that kind of weapon. Thank you, Hala.
Thank you. And that was Mr. Ivan Ust, the advisor at the Ukraine National Center. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here today at In Focus. And that was In Focus, and thanks for watching. And do stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.